nation, destroys our generation. I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind. Looking for inspiration in my life, looking for inspiration all the time, looking for, looking for, looking for, looking for, hey!
And good evening. Once again, maybe not once again, it was on here a little bit earlier today. It was showing us, I guess, something a little bit different. We switched gears, I guess, at this point, and we're going to do some m0dding 17 editing. So, yeah, we'll get into it here. Appreciate anybody showing up in the stream. Just give me a second there or two. Alright. Alright. Yeah. Talked to another good friend of mine. Was really curious and wanting to know how to use the Giants editor for m0dding 17. And granted, yes, it is true. There are a lot of different YouTube videos out there and what have you, I guess, that tend to try and show you, I guess, somewhat of what's going on, but to give kind of like a dummies, perspective, I guess, as far as a Giants editor for dummies, I guess, the approach, I guess, to this, and not to degrade or anything like that as far as Riptide, how you doing, buddy? Thank you for showing up for the stream. Appreciate having you here. I'm not sure if this is something that I've been kind of shy in a way, I guess you could say, as far as wanting to show these types of things, as far as this aspect, I guess, as far as a lot of us in the streamers initiatives tend to like the game, just like to get into it and get, just to have fun that way. This is kind of the way, to be perfectly honest, the way I have fun. So yeah, it's good to have you in here. I know you don't always got real life, I guess, gets in the way a lot of times, and yeah, it's good to have you here. Glad you can kind of catch one here. This is the first time, to be honest, that I've actually done a stream that involves doing any modding or anything for m0dding 17. The editor, as we know, if anybody that cares to divulge, I guess, in that realm, the editor is 100% available, free, through the Giants Developer Network, and you have the ability to be able to open and edit, open maps and edit them and edit mods, be it tractors and what have you. So, yeah, kind of going to give a, really down to earth, kind of perspective as far as like what's involved with how the editor works, I guess, for example. So as I've got here showcased here, I've got it focused on a particular object here, which is basically a catch-all for the cow manure and the slurry, what have you. This is an object for that. I have it focused on this. This is something that has been asked about, and I apologize, I totally meant to have a tool applied, I guess, to the stream to show what keys that I'm pressing. Unfortunate circumstances, I guess, presented themselves that I couldn't get it to work, so I'm gonna have to remind myself to let those know that care to want to know as far as like what keys that I'm actually pushing as I do these things. So, as some may tend to know, there is a template that's available for the use of the editor that gives you some of this, but primarily, if you've got something focused, something selected like this, you can press the F key, I guess, to focus the camera on that particular object, and then use the Alt key and your mouse to kind of move it around. Just the left click to Whereas, dude, I've been so much gameplay exposed for the streamers so far, so this is actually cool. And that's what I kind of hope for. It's not that I don't game at all. I do tend to divulge in myself, once I've done a lot of modding, as far as this is just one of my test maps. So it's not, oops, zooming out here. Using the right click on the mouse, whatever, you can zoom in and out by still pressing the Alt key, the left Alt key. This is what this will do. And then the left key with the Alt key still pressed, whatever, will allow you to pivot around that particular object that you have selected. If you don't have anything selected, another way you can go about it, and even if you, it's probably fair to mention, even I've got the water plane. You can see that in the background is selected there, as long as something's selected. But another way you can do, if you don't have anything in your map necessarily, primarily using this as an example, is you can load different pieces of implements and stuff like that into this editor as well. Maps is not the only thing. But the other way you can focus the camera, as far as in the viewport, on something is you can go to your cameras here. There will always be at least a perspective camera in your map, but primarily, so if you have that highlight in there, you can push your F, and what that'll do is, in this case, it's focused on the whole map. So from this point, I can hold the left Alt key and the left mouse, and to just move the mouse to move the map around, and I can zoom in with the right. And a way to adjust the speed at how fast you zoom in with the right click by holding the Alt key is you can go down to the bottom. You can't necessarily see it in the stream now that I noticed that, but what you do is you use your plus and minus key on your numpad, and what that does is it increases or decreases the speed. Right now I'm going to bump this up a little bit so it zooms in a little quicker. So I bump that up a tad. Let's bump it up a little more with the plus key, and we'll just kind of zoom in here. I'm just right clicking and moving the mouse up, and seeing right now it's kind of focused on the center as best it can, as far as the editor's concerned, is having focused in the middle of the map, but you get an idea of the terrain. This map here, just for fair mention here, it's based on, see, as you go like this, so I'm going to focus on an object here, so I'll just click this again, push my F key, and then I'll focus on that. Granted, this is a trigger, but anything that you select on and hit the F, and once you can see the bounding box for it, it'll focus. So, and again, just using the Alt key, holding the Alt key and holding the left mouse down, you can pan around. It's set up to the middle mouse, and I think you can change this too, I'm not 100% sure, but you can use your middle mouse and pan across this way. Again, still holding the left Alt key. Just about any movements that you want to make in the map, you have to hold the left Alt key. If you don't do that, and I stand corrected on that, so as long as you're focused on something, oop, that was kind of like, yeah, so you do have to hold the left Alt key. I thought it was lying to me there for a second. Yeah. So yeah, if you do want to move around in the map or in your mod that you have in the editor, you have to hold down the left Alt key and then use your mouse to. So, where was I? I was going to show one of the other questions that was asked by a good friend of mine, as far as like, pay no attention, I guess, to what's going on, I guess, with this thing. I've primarily set this up as my playground. And when I say playground, I've got, focus on this, F key. You can focus on this thing. Anything that's selected, like I said, you can hit the F key and it'll focus on it, and then you can, any movements that you make with the camera, it'll focus on it. This map is primarily set up as a playground, if you will, a test grid, to try out different mods and things like that. It has roughly placed all the animals in this area. It has the chickens here, sheep are here, and the pigs are over here, and the pigs have its own pen here for the manure and the slurry. And then here's the cows. That's their bed, I guess you could say, as far as their. And then, like I said, they're initially in the start of the stream here. This is their. So that's just putting it all localized there. This map is, as you can see, it's got remnants. It's based on a vanilla gold crest. When I say vanilla, it's like from the default map that comes with the Giants simulation. As far as Farm Sim 17 in this case, this one in particular has all the bits, the things that you need, I guess, to apply sugarcane. That's available in the Platinum editions. Here, in fact, here's the. I've got a field laid out, I guess, with sugarcane, and this is all vanilla as far as the Giants engine is concerned. And the sugarcane aspect is really interesting, to be honest, because it doesn't. You can plant it, and as long as you don't plow it under or whatever like that, it just keeps growing, and it doesn't wither either. It does take forever for it to grow, but the yield that you get out of it is ridiculous. And I think that's what's really cool, I guess, the aspect of the Giants implementation of the sugarcane, which is this. And this is something that I'll usually test in the editor for my own purposes, I guess, as far as laying these types of things out, because you can adjust all these different, you can see how the texture changes as you zoom out. These are the distance textures. And granted, like I said, these are all vanilla items, I guess, that are already implemented into the Giants engine. And especially if you've got the Platinum edition, if you've got that DLC for it, you'll have this aspect. But this primarily, the way I've done this here, you wouldn't necessarily need to have the Platinum edition. There are mods out there as far as equipment that'll handle the harvesting and the planting of, and it's using non-platinum pieces of equipment that have been modded by other modders to do that. So, and that's what leaves Giants, as far as a developer, I guess, for a sim such like this, it makes it, they've left that open, I guess, to be able to do that. They know this is the type of thing that will occur, and in all actuality, they still don't necessarily lose out of it. So, I have a field over here that has wheat. That was just to put a root crop, or not a root crop necessarily, but another vanilla crop in there. So if I wanted to test harvesters or things like that, I don't want to go too much, I guess, over what I've got going on in here. One of the other primary questions that has been asked about how to use the editor, and I'm kicking myself that I wasn't able to get that keystroke deal to show up in the stream there to show exactly what I'm, but I hope I explained that well enough as far as like how to navigate yourself around in the map, particularly, and as far as the change of the speed and what have you. So if there's more clarification that is to be had there, then just let me know. I'll keep an eye in the chat. And keeping another focus, I guess, as far as what else has been asked about how to do something. They'll say this was a map that you like to play, and you want to be able to either add in or subtract buildings or what have you, I guess, from it that you don't necessarily care for. Okay, so this question has been asked. Now, keeping in mind this one doesn't have a whole lot of buildings in it, it's just the terrain. I have only got, like I said, the implementations for the default animals, as far as the chickens, sheep, and all that. So, welcome to the stream there, homeboy. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you're not missing too much, I guess. I did go over slightly about the. Oh yeah, I don't. I can understand that. But as far as the motions in here, I can go over those if you like me to. Just let me know if you missed any of that. I can go back over those if you need me to. But I was explaining as far as how to maneuver and manipulate yourself in the editor. Primarily, what you need to do is have something focused. In this case, I've got this field icon, but you can click on anything. You can click on a tree. primarily, a lot of times what will happen is if you click on the map, it'll get the water plane, which is fine too. You can focus on that, pushing the F key, and that'll just put you out this way. If you want to change, I guess I'm going over these even though you asked and didn't mention anything. But just let me know what you have heard and what you didn't hear. Let's put it that way. Whoops. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but yeah. But this is, and I'm sure you probably missed that too, as far as like what this map is based on is primarily the vanilla Goldcrest that has all the bits in there for the Sugarcane, the Platinum Edition. So what this primarily tries to do, like I said, it'll focus on the center of the world for the map, in this case the water plane, and you can kind of see where the water plane lands. That always has to be at 0. I don't know if you can see the translates over here, but if you look at the translates over here, they primarily, as far as the it primarily needs to be right at 0. So anything that you dig down into it to get to the water plane, that's what it'll show. You know, so this is just a generic water plane. There's other maps that are out there that have custom water planes to take advantage of, you know, heights and all that stuff. So like if there was a higher elevation here and it had a different water plane in a different higher elevation. For our purposes here, it's just, this has just got the, you know, the generic water plane in there that extends obviously well beyond the boundaries of the map. But just let me know if okay, that's fine too. Yeah, it'll definitely be in the archive as well, so I won't apply any redundancy to it then. Okay, so getting back to the idea of, let's say you wanted to add an object to the map, for example. So let's say this is, again, this is a map that you like to play, that you like to farm on and what have you in the game. What you could do, and I'm going to use an object, a couple of different objects possibly that I've already put together myself. I think what I'll do is try this cigar factory. This is a, and I can open this in a separate instance here. Let me try, let's do this one. I'm going to open this one in another instance here. And if you know, certain people's computers may not necessarily have this ability if you don't have multi-cores, so that's probably another fair mention. Whoa, that's interesting. Why did I do that? Oh, I'm going to give it a minute. Bear with me. Okay. It'll do that sometimes. I don't know why it does that. That's kind of weird, but anyway, so sometimes the object will go ahead and open if you just double click on the i3D. Like I just did there. Sometimes it won't. In that case, if it doesn't, don't freak out. Just go ahead and navigate back to that. So I'm just, in this case, it's on my desktop. And let's go ahead and click on this one in here directly, and then I'll go ahead and open it like this. So this one I've already gone ahead and cleaned it up as far as where it gets all the textures and what have you. So this is a m0dding gas station that I acquired from another map. I don't take any credit for creating this model, just fair mention. But you can see, you know, once again, if I select this, I can push the F. It'll center it as best as possible. So when I maneuver around here, holding down the left Alt key as it's, you know, selected there, and holding down your left mouse button, and then just using your mouse to move it around. This is primarily how you navigate. Now to move around, I guess, from left to right, backwards and forward, up and down, you can just use your middle mouse. You got a middle mouse button on your, that's just kind of do an overview summary, I guess, of how that works. So we got this model, we know it's good to go. Okay, so I'm going to close this instance. Let me see here, let me just go ahead and exit out of that. No, I don't want to save it. Okay, so I still got my map open here. So now what I'm going to do, what you need to consider when you're adding items to that is you need to have this all set up beforehand. Have your i3D as well as your shapes file. Those are critical. And where your, whoops, gotta put my control. So used to hitting the left alt. So you want to have your i3D, your shapes file, and where your textures are located. In this case, it's this folder. I'm not going to go into how to get it that way. Primarily, most of your prefab stuff that you'll get on the mod hub site, the FarmSim 17 Giants mod hub, you know, the official page, it'll already be done for you. Okay, so it'll be a relatively similar process, you know, to doing that. So what you want to do from that point is you want to put those textures into, in this case, this is my test map. So I'm going to paste this into here, and probably what I'm going to do, so I might do a little bit of editing to this here. I'm going to open this up in Notepad++ is your savior when it comes to this. I'm not going to go ahead and do that yet. So what I just did here is I opened up this i3D that shows where all this information is going to be gathered. So the way it's set up right now, currently, the fact that I put this mobile station into the root of the map, okay, so the fact that it starts off here with that actual texture folder here, what you have to consider as ahead of this is the actual root of the map folder, and the root of the map folder in this case is test map. So depending on what the map is actually named, that's, so the way I have this right here, I could easily go ahead and apply this to the map just the way it is, but I'm not going to do that. What I want to do is relocate this. So I am going to show a little bit, I guess, of that procedure. I'm going to move what is the texture files, and I'll open this up real quick. This shows you all the textures that are applied to this particular model. And I'm going to relocate it. I'm going to cut it from here, and I'm going to put it into my textures folder here. Now this is just giving you an example. You can put those wherever you decide, but you want to take note of where those are actually being, you know, put to. So this is in the root of the mat and textures, and then this one. So all I'm going to do in the edit for this is I'm just going to add the textures folder. So I'm going to do textures. Whoops, got to spell it right first. And we want the / in there. So now it'll point to textures mobile station instead of the root of the map. So I'm going to apply that same. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. This will be the same for all these textures. And I'll paste that in front here. Okay. Just pasting these all in front of here, since just to relocate those. And then what I'll do is save that. Not a save as, save. Close that. Now that'll show, if I go back to the map i3D here, I just saved that. Now what I'll do, just to ensure that it's in the correct location here, I'm going to go ahead and reopen it in the Giants editor, just double click it. See if it does that funky thing again. Might necessarily do that. Let me give it a second. Yep. It's been doing that every once in a while. I'm not exactly 100% sure. I don't let it bother me anymore because it usually will correct itself if I just give it a second or two. Alright, so yeah, I didn't open it right away, so I'm going to basically go to my map, which is in my documents, my games for 17. Go to where I've got that located and click on it, and it should load. And as long as it loads, see, and I can just use the left Alt key using my right mouse to pan out, and I'm going to use my middle mouse button like this. Now, keeping in mind I don't have anything selected, so sometimes it might behoove you, I guess, to actually select it and push the F key, you know, to get it to move around and such. But it does load. There's no errors showing up, I guess, in the bottom here, so that's key. As long as we don't have any errors there, then we know this model is good to go, I guess, as far as to import it into the map. And this is something that I feel necessarily gets overlooked as far as to relocate, and because most I've come to find they would just take and leave that folder right directly in the root folder, say, for example. To me, I don't think that's very quality, to say the least. To put it into a location that makes more sense, I guess, is probably the best way to go. And I'm just using that as an example. It does not mean you have to put it exactly in the same location that I did, but just making sure that you, once you do that, that you edit the i3D, open it up, and I do strongly suggest getting Notepad++ and open that up there and adjust those accordingly, save it, and close it. And then double check it to make sure that it opens in the editor so that you've done it right. If you have any errors, obviously you'd have to correct those before doing anything. So now that we know that this model loads fine in the editor, we're going to go back to our map and we're going to pick a location here. So I'm going to hit my left Alt button, do my right mouse, I'm going to zoom in. Okay, and now that I'm not focused on here, I'm going to focus on this plane, pushing the F key. It's focused on that. So now it'll pivot on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this mobile gas station, let's say, just for the sake of this video, I'll put it over in this area, right over in here. Nothing going on over here. Just to say this is the spot that you want to do it. I know it's got grass and all that stuff. If you wanted to paint it first and all that stuff, you could do that. I'm not going to necessarily go over that, but let's just say for the sake of this video stream here that we want to put it here. So what we do is go into our there's a import i3D, which is what we want. So we want to click on that. It's a little green plus sign on it. It says import i3D. Once you hover over it, so click on that, and you'll see we're already in that directory for our map that we want to apply for. You can see our mobile station i3D right here. So we want to click on that and do open. Okay, now it's going to be in the map, but it's going to be way on the bottom here. Okay, this is something else that gets missed sometimes as well. What you want to do is select this and go to edit, do a cut, and then paste this into the location in your scene graph. This is what makes or breaks, I guess, a well laid out scene graph. So let's say, for example, I had, and I could probably create one. I'm just going to go ahead and put this, again, for the sake of this video, I could create another transform and call it gas station or something like that. Something that you could essentially put a lot of objects into. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the store place for now. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that into this transform. So now that model, and you can see it here, is in this transform. So rather than leaving it way here on the bottom, again, not very quality to do that. So you want to either put it into something that already exists in your scene graph, or create another scene graph and place that in there. Okay, instead of just leaving it loose. And this way, what will happen is once you click on that particular main transform there, anything that's in that particular transform will be highlighted in there, and you can either adjust those as a whole or the individual pieces if you were to collapse it down as such. See, now this particular model has the triggers for being able to fuel up your tractor, your truck, whatever. Those are in here as well. You can see those. So those are the sub transforms of that particular model. So hopefully that makes sense as far as putting that into its own transform. So with this in place here, I can now put that where I want it, and I can do it one of two ways. If I take the coordinates here, I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and drag it this way. Okay, hitting the left Alt to move it around, middle mouse button, using the middle mouse button right now. Okay, and then I can just drag it with my left click of the mouse, and what I'll do is I need to rotate it, so I'll just turn it this way, and you can grab it just by the rotate axis. And what I'm paying attention to is these rotates here, so I want to get it at 0. So I'm going to go ahead and just backspace this out and push 0. So there we go. So now it's 0 there, so let's drag it this way, drag it this way, and you can see some of the grass kind of coming through it here. So I'm just going to roughly put it in place here. Let's refocus. So it's looking like it might need to be raised slightly, because you can see it kind of, the grass kind of bleeding through here. So we're going to raise it up just a smidgen. There we go. That's one way to do it. Or you can do it just by, in this case, for the editor is concerned, your Y is going to be your up and down. So if I was to say go like, I'm just backspacing it out there, so I'm gonna, you can see what's happening there. So it's gonna undo that. Whoops. Okay, so it didn't backspace. Okay. No problem. Let's put this back over here, and we're gonna use the arrow on the gizmo. And there's sometimes you'll get objects. Granted, like I said, I've already cleaned this one up to make it easier to manipulate. Sometimes you'll get these gizmos here, as far as to move it, way out in left field. And those are the types of things I tend to stay away from, to be honest. But I've already taken the liberty of putting this transform in a location that's reasonable, I guess, to manipulate it. So, well, thank you there, Riptide. I mean, I wasn't really sure, I guess, as far as what how much interest there would be in this type of thing. So, yeah, I appreciate, I guess, the insight, I guess, as far as, you know, at least it gives you the, for me, this is kind of a joy for me, I guess, to, you know, really, I guess I realize let me put this back to 0 here real quick. That's bugging me. Alright, that's on my Y rotation. Yeah, but I mean, this is kind of something I find enjoyable, as far as to actually know what goes into, you know, the games that we like to play, for example, as far as like what goes into it, as far as to get it that way in the first place, you know. So it's the fact that the Giants has got it so, you know, set up in such a way that you have that ability to do that. And it just, to me, it's so my realm as far as like doing the 3D modeling and stuff like that. It's so like plug and play to me. So it's like if you create a model in, say, 3D Max is usually my 3D modeling application of choice. I can build that, I can use the plugin that Giants has provided for that particular application, and convert it into an i3D and edit it accordingly as I need to, just as I showed earlier, and I can put it into the editor, and there it is. It's in my map. So it's totally my realm as far as to not only be able to create the models and get them the way I like them and stuff like that, but also to be able to enjoy them, I guess, once I got it all in there. So with this model in here, you can see I have this now in here now. If that, you know, I don't know if I made that clear enough. I could essentially I could save this map as it is, you know, with everything that I've placed in here. And if I was to go into the game, because I already have this in my game directory here, this is probably something too, because we've always touched on, like, for other simulations that I've gotten involved in, like the NASCAR Racing 2003 simulation, for example, you don't necessarily want to edit your track or any mod for that, you know, directly into the game directory itself. This is what has changed, you know, this has been a game changer, I guess, the way Giants has it edited. You can totally do that and not have it be a problem. So, but I do have it's probably a fair mention too that I do have a copy of this map saved on another drive, so that any changes that I make on here, if I don't want those anymore, or if I want to revert back to a previous build of it, I can. So that's, if there's anything to take from this, you want to make sure that you back up, you know, back up before you apply stuff, so that way you have something to refer back to. That's alright. So now that we have, so I'm going to go ahead and go through this entire process here again. So now we have our model where we want it. Okay, so now what we can do is go ahead and save this. And like I said, I can go back to my original save. So I'll do a save as, go to maps, here's my map i3D, and who knows, I might actually keep it in there. You never know. I might do some additional editing to it, but I'm going to go ahead and let this save, and it'll just tell me down here in the bottom that it saved successfully. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll close this. Okay, and what you want to do, this is my workflow with it. Once I know it's in the map, you no longer need the original i3D in its shapes file, right? You do need to keep the textures in there where you applied them. In this case, I put them in the textures and I put them here. These do need to remain, but once the i3D for the model that you're applying to it is already in the map, you don't need this anymore. You don't need these two files. So I could just go ahead and delete them because I already have them saved in my deal here, so I don't have to worry about it. So I can just delete those. This is another common problem that I see with map builders as far as they don't clean up afterwards. They'll leave all the junk in there that doesn't need to be in there. Yeah, definitely Riptide. As far as like, it's not that I don't like the game. I don't like to stream the gaming, but there's so much of it. It's just like, I like to have fun with that, and I usually do that in my offline time. If that's, I haven't necessarily done too many streams, I guess, by, with, streaming the gaming, as far as like the shoot 'em up games, the Fortnite, and you guys do the Mario Kart and such like that. That's fine. I like to watch those. It's just not necessarily 100% my thing. This is something more I like to get out there as far as like what goes into to for those that enjoy the games, I guess, that they play, as far as like what actually goes into getting it that way. So I don't want to go too much on a tangent. So we got that all saved. It's in our, and I think what I'll do, I was hesitant whether or not to go into, I don't have my Steam up is the problem. So probably what I'll do is, bear with me here. I'm going to put this off screen here. I'm going to go into my Steam so I can load the game. That was one thing I missed, I suppose. Yeah, that's 100% true, Riptide. I mean, it's just, I don't knock anybody at all. As far as wanting to stream the gaming, that's great. As far as Lefty, yourself, I know Aquafina and all you guys get together and do the Mario Kart thing. That's fun to watch. Just to interact, I guess, in that fashion. But as far as it being my thing, it's just not so much. And there's nothing wrong with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this off screen here for a second so I can get into my Steam. Gotta remember what it was now. This is one thing I forgot to. It won't take that long, so it's all good. Hopefully it doesn't freak out or anything. And then what we can do is actually go into that map and check our work. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that. And I want to make sure. I got this nifty little tool here too. This is probably fair mention. This is available over at, I'll throw a little plug in there for him. This little utility here, it's a mod folder switcher, and basically what it does is, if you've got multiple mod folders in your game, like I do, like in this case I got 4 different mod folders here on top of the default one. So what this little switcher does is it allows you to pick which mods it'll go to. In this case I do have it on the appropriate one, but you can select these buttons. I'll just show it off here real quick here, and you can navigate to what you want it to launch, what folder you want it to launch in. So in this case it would be, give me a second. So if I wanted to navigate to, where's my documents folder? Yeah, I guess I would have to go all the way through this, and this is what's nice about it, so that way you don't have to do this all the time. So I'm going to go to my user, go to my documents. Yep. See, so you have to go through a little bit here, but we'll get there. Just to show you, I guess, how this works. So I navigate all the way to the game installation. Alright, so go to my games, Farm Simulator 17, and then choose the mod folder that you want that button applied to, and then it'll automatically, oop, I think I just screwed up there. Okay, let me close this and open it back up again. Yeah, it doesn't like to do that. There we go. So once you've got those all set up there, then it'll automatically See, this is what it'll show down here as far as what folder it's pointed to. So it's kind of nice. So if I select any one of these other ones, it'll go to those particular mod folders as it's. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll probably be here for a little bit. I only intended this to be just a couple-hour stream. Wanted to be off by around 8 o'clock. Got some shows I want to watch, so probably as well as lurk on some TSI streamers, to be honest. I've been slacking on that a little bit, so yeah, we'll be here for a little bit here, Riptide. So anyway, yeah, so that's pointed to that, so I'm good on that. Got it in my Steam, and let's go ahead and load this up here. Alright, so we'll go ahead into Farming Simulator. Let's see how this goes. Oh my goodness, yeah, see, this is what has been causing me problems too. Yeah, so I'm going to have to reboot, unfortunately. I've been getting this issue with, yeah, so I'm going to have to renege on that, I guess, for a while. Yeah, because it would require me to reboot. I'm not going to do that. So, for the sake of the stream, I'm going to leave that out. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It's been doing that for me. I don't know if it's just an issue with it being outdated video card. Not sure, but what I've come to find that if I update the video card drivers, it doesn't change anything. So, and what it ultimately, like I said, it forces me to do is to reboot, and then it's fine. But I will leave that out of the equation, I guess, for the sake of this stream. But let's just assume whatever you go in there, you try it in the game, you'll be able to see how it works and what have you. You would be able to see the same thing as we saw in the editor. So let's say all that's fine, and what I'll do now, and again for the sake of this stream, shoot, why am I dropping frames? Okay, this has happened to me before too, and it's freaky, so give me a second. For some reason I'm dropping frames. Let me let it settle down a little bit. Hopefully everybody can still hear me. Yeah, it did this to me the end of my stream a couple weeks ago. I don't know why it does that. So just give me a few. Okay, seems to be settling down now, but yeah, because now see, now it's just doing it again. I don't know why it keeps doing that. See, what I thought it was before was my affinity as far as the CPU assignments, but for some reason it's something else. Alright, hold on a second. I think I know what it is. I think it's because I brought up Steam there, it's doing an updates. In fact, I'm almost 100% sure that's what it is. So bear with me. Bear with me, folks. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm going to type in here too just to let you know I'm still here. I think what's happening, to be honest, and that might be what happened last time too, now that I think of it, it's I think the fact that my Steam games or whatever are doing their updates, that's the only thing I can think of. It's taken away from my bandwidth. Yeah, dropping frames like crazy, so I'm gonna give it a second. You can probably still hear me. I'm sure the sound's probably coming over okay. It's just the video's probably. I might have to do that. Yeah, to be honest, I apologize, I guess, for that. But I think that's what's going on, as far as looking at what's going on in Steam. I think that's what's happening. I'm already well over 7,000 frames dropped. That's crazy. Let me bring up Steam here real quick. Come on. Apologize for it, folks. Yeah, that's 100%. I think what it's doing. My Steam games are doing their updates, and it's taking away from my bandwidth. I don't know if it's going to. What I might do is just end the stream for a second, and I'll come back when this is done. Okay. Yeah, because I'm totally... Yeah, I will come back. I will let this finish what it needs to do, and then I will come back. So... Alright. I do believe everything's kind of settled down now. Okay, let me go ahead and do what I initially intended to do, which was to bring up FarmSim this way, so it should work. Just hope. And give it a try. Alright, so far it's loaded. It's good. So yeah, as I was showing earlier, I had oh, wait a minute. Something's not right. What's going on here? A second. Why do I got the black screen on there? Uh-oh. Bear with me a second, folks, because I think not 100% sure why. What is up with that? Usually lets me mouse out of that easy. That's new. Alright, I'm not 100% sure why. Let me switch to different screen. Should not matter with that, but I'm not sure. Let me try this. Let me go to this scene here and see what that does. Yeah, there we go. For some reason, I guess that capture wasn't working properly. So we'll do it this way. Yeah, we'll go this way. For some reason, it was doing black screen. I guess I'll have to check that out later. Because I know there's a setting that you can do. In fact, I can go in here and kind of see, go into options. Yeah, if you've set, for some of you that didn't know, that play the FarmSim stuff here, yeah, advanced here. If you go into advanced, you got to turn off this multi-sample anti-aliasing. This option right here, you have to shut that off in order to get the OBS, I guess, to recognize it as a. But the I'm not sure why it wasn't working. I guess on the one scene, I guess captured there, but I guess I'll look at that later. But just for anyone that knows, all right, good homeboy. That was something I was waiting for. I had to make sure, I guess, I could get into FarmSim. Now that Steam was fully loaded and what have you, so I was kind of waiting on you. But I was just kind of going over what. For anyone that does stream and does use OBS Studio in this case, the fact that in order to get farm sim to show up in OBS and turn through the stream, you have to have this multi-sample anti-aliasing shut off. That's one of the things that they suggest in there, and I had this little tidbit of information there. Let me try. Just give me a second here. I want to see if it'll still work on this screen. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. Cool. Alright, let me go back to this one. Bear with me a second or two. Alright, and I'll go back to one here. And bring that back up. Yeah, there we go. That's what I was trying to get to do, is showing a black screen for some reason, so I think we got that figured out. Yeah. Gotta love it, man. I'm telling you. That was embarrassing. I mean, I should have known better, whatever the fact that I was outside of Steam. Anybody that knows, if you've got a Steam account and you log into that, 9 times out of 10, it's going to want to update stuff. Be it either the client itself or your games. And that's 100% what it did. It was taking away all my bandwidth. So, anyway, that's all that said and done. What we wanted to do now, where we left off, was to go and test our map. And what I'm going to do is find a game that's save game here that's not used. Just go into normal, select our map. Here's my test map. Choose my character, and the only thing I usually shut off in this, even though this test map that I have here is seasons ready, I usually shut that off for testing purposes. So we're just going to shut those 2 seasons deals off there. Though the other deal there was it's a geo. Uh-oh. That's not cool. What happened? Ruh-roh. Okay, I guess I'll have to check. I guess on what I'll do, with that said, I don't know if it's saved right. Maybe not. Let me double check. Okay, it's on that mod, so that's cool. No problem. We'll get her figured out here. I think it might have been just from me mousing out of that. I've usually not had a problem, I guess, with being able to mouse out, but I think that proved me wrong, I guess. Otherwise, there's, let me look and see if our map's saved correctly. Just give me a second here. I'm probably only going to stand for about another half an hour or so, so just fair mention. Oops. So yeah, let's go ahead and that's a prior engagement, I guess, for 8 o'clock. So I just wanted to what are you doing? Maybe it's still loading. Okay. Had to give it a second. Okay, so I'm going to load our map up here again and see if it's loading properly, because I'm thinking it... Why is this crashing? Okay, so something happened there. Something must not have saved correctly. Alrighty then. Okay, no problem. So what I'll do... This is why I have a backup. So what I'll do... And... I guess I can just show the process here. Be it the fact that I do have this backed up, I might have to go through the process again, but I can do that rather quickly since I've already gone over it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my backed up copy here. Something must have screwed up there, because I had some things going on there because I wasn't able to load the game initially and all that stuff, so I think it didn't save correctly. But like I said, be it the fact that I do have okay, just a second here. So I gotta go to my maps. Yep. So all I'm gonna do is I'm going to copy this. Yeah. This is my saved map. This is before I made all the changes, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete this one. I think that got foobarred. Paste this into my mods directory. And then what I'll have to do is just very quickly go back through adding that that model back to the map so that we can actually test it in the game. Let me make sure this will load first, because if it doesn't, then we're really in trouble. Alright, so I figured that would do that. So you may not necessarily have the same problems that I do with the editor sometimes. Sometimes it tends to want to hang for a minute or for a second. So don't let that frustrate you as far as... Why is it out there? Hold on. Alright, there it goes. That was weird. For some reason it was putting it out on the other monitor. Alright, so let's see if this loads. Alright, cool. Yeah, so something must have happened with the previous save there as far as trying to go check that out in the game. Because I can load my backup fine. This is where it initially ended up. And like I said, what I'll do for the sake of this portion here, I'm going to go very quickly through the same process. So please excuse the rushedness, I guess, of this. As I've already explained, as far as how to, get to the point that we were. So what I'm going to do is go into my map stuff. A lot of this is going to be really quick review. So I'm going to my map stuff here. I'm going to take my mobile station plus my textures. I'm going to copy that. Okay, this one I can close. See, and then if anything, the takeaway from this whole experience here is it's good to have a backup. Had I not backed that up there, I would have had nothing. So we're going to go ahead and paste this into here. We're going to move our textures to our textures folder. Thought that had more in it before. Oh, wait a minute. Nope. I put that in the wrong spot. Wrong spot. See, I already screwed up. So I'm doing it too fast. Alright, hold on. So I'm going to cut this. Yeah, see, I didn't put it in the root. So that's the mistake I made. So hold on. So let me put this in the root. Alright, go into maps, textures. Cut this out. I thought that looked goofy because it's had more folders in there. See, that's something you might necessarily go through. Got to pay attention to. Yeah, this is where I need it. Alright, so now I'm going to go into this and edit this. And again, excuse the rushedness, I guess, of this process, but I've already gone through it. So I'm just going to copy this. For anyone coming back onto the stream that may be out of sight, I guess, with what happened, we had a catastrophic failure, I guess, of the initial stream there, so we're kind of having to backtrack what progress we did make prior to stream crashing. So I've got those all edited. I'm going to save this. So this should be all good to go. And I'm going to double check and make sure that this object loads in the editor. I can open another instance because I have the ability to do that. You may not if you don't have multi-cores. So the fact that that's opening up over there, I have no clue. That is really weird. Okay, so what I need to do is backspace this to the root and open this model. It should load, which it does. That's all we need. We don't have any errors, so that's good. No errors show down in the bottom there, so that model is good to go. We're going to do no. So we know this model is now good to go as far as being able to load it in our map. So we're going to go to our little import i3D, little green plus. Okay, and then we're going to add it. Okay, now it's in there. Now we need to cut this from here. Select it, go to edit, cut it, and I'm going to paste it into the store places one here. You may necessarily want to create your own transform. As far as to put this particular one, I'm just going to happen to use this one just for the sake of. So what I want to do and edit, paste. There's our object right there. Okay. What you could necessarily do if the transform was really wonky, say for example, you could use the Control B function, which is the interactive placement. The fact that I've got this set so that it's easier to manipulate, I didn't need to do that. So you may find that necessarily to have to use the Control B or just go to Edit, Interactive Placement. You know, if the object that you're importing happens to be way out in left field, you can choose the spot after you select that where you want it to be, then it should put it there. At least the transformer will. It doesn't go by the model, it goes by where the transformer is located. So, alright, so we got this. Here I'm going to push my F key. Okay. And then we want to raise this up just a tad. Alright. So now we got our model in there. Okay, so I'm going to click off of that so it's not selected anymore. And I usually like to get into the habit of closing up, you know, what's in my scene graph before I save it. So I'm going to go save as. We don't want that. We want the map i3D. So I'm going to go here, save that. Okay, it gives me save successfully down there. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And primarily, you know, sometimes, you know, if you got the multi-cores, like I said, I always like to follow the workflow of closing out completely. And like I showed earlier, as far as once you know it's in the map, you've got it applied, just as I've shown there, you can remove the i3D as well as the shapes file. Leave your textures in there, but you can remove your i3D as well as your shapes file as far as whatever it is you're adding. That's already applied to the map. You don't need that. That's just part of good etiquette as far as, you know, applying cleanup. Alright, so with all that done, now we should be able to go into the game. Hopefully this works better this time. We won't have the catastrophic failures we did. Alright, so let me just alright. Appreciate anybody that has dropped on in and checked out what we got going on here. What we're doing is some farm sim editing. As far as the process that I'm showing right now, or trying to catch up with that, is how to add an object properly, and then once I go demonstrating the game as far as having it in there, we'll show how to get it out of there in much the reverse fashion. So we're going to go, hopefully, safe in a safer way, I guess, into the farm sim here. And it looks like it's doing that same deal again. So I might have to switch. Alright, hold on a second here. See, it's doing that with the black screen again. Just a second. is it still a black screen? I don't get that. That is really weird. Alright. So I just moused out of that, so I don't know how that's going to affect. You goofy son of a gun. Yeah, see, it's screwed up again. Really? Really? Okay. You're gonna do that to me. Huh. Well, that is interesting. I do not know what's going on with that. I guess I'm gonna have to play with that. So, has not done that to me, so I don't know what's going on with that. That is weird. See, now it works. See, but I shouldn't have to mouse out like that. That's what's funky. So let's see if it'll crash again. I got a feeling it's going to crash again. Let's see. Alright, dude. Alright. Don't get hurt. Stay safe. Okay, so I just want to turn those two off. I'm gonna load, please load. Yeah, it did work there. So yeah, I guess that's an interesting thing there. I don't know why it goes to a black screen. So it did load, that's good. Alrighty then, so what we should have here, we should be able to tab over to our truck. And let's turn our screen. And we should be able to see our mobile gas station over here. And there she be. So we should be able to fuel up. Yep, so we got the little fuel trigger. I know we don't need any, but fuel trigger's there. Huh, it's got a little rise in that. I didn't notice that before. You see, yep, you can see our mobile station is placed rather nicely. Yep. So as far as the elevation here now, I necessarily wanted to clean up here to kind of remove this little bump out of it and stuff like that, and maybe even put some asphalt around it or whatever. I could do that in the editor, but it is necessarily in here, and it looks like it's actually functioning because I can go up to any of these pumps. Let's go up over here. Yep, so I got the fuel, the option to fuel there. Now, just for the sake of this here, we can actually see if the lights work on it, because it should have lighting on it. So we'll jump out of here, and let's actually speed this up a little bit. Let's bring up our menu. Let's speed up time here. See if we can get it to evening there. Using the fast forward mod. It's a modified fast forward mod that speeds up time. Comes in handy every once in a while, especially for doing these testing purposes. See, we are getting a little dark here. We should have some lights come on this thing. Maybe not. So maybe this doesn't have any lights. I'm not sure if this, I don't remember if this one had lights on it or not. I mean, it's got physical lights on it, but so then 100%. Let me see if there's any errors for that. Other than the ones for, yeah, you can notice through here, this is what's nice as far as the console. It gives you any type of warnings that necessarily exist in here. And granted, I have a lot of stuff in here. This is my test map. It's got a lot of stuff in here that, so it's really irrelevant. But as far as for that particular object, there is no error for that, error warning. Aquafina, how we doing? Appreciate you stopping by. We had a little bit of a catastrophic end or initial stream there, so I just now got it back going. Darn Steam anyway. We had found it necessary to have to update some stuff. We brought it back on, finished up what we started there, so doing a little bit of modding for Farm Simulator 17, yeah. Well, it's going, other than having that crash, I mean, it's going pretty good so far. For the most part, let's put it that way. So, the fact that, yeah, I guess this particular model, I thought it had lighting in there. I mean, I could probably add some via the editor if I wanted to. I didn't necessarily observe that prior to putting the model in here. Obviously, this was just for demonstration purposes only. But you can see we've got our model in here from what we edited in the editor itself, I should say. So what I'd probably necessarily go over next, let's go ahead and speed this up, see if the lights come on at all. Okay, so it doesn't, but those can be added. I mean, that's not necessarily a failing thing. You know, and I was sitting here talking to Riptide earlier. I think he's lurking in here, but he had stopped by, you know, just to see. It's a change of pace, I guess, is from watching, I guess, games being streamed. You know, as far as like, I know we get into like the Mario Kart and all that stuff like that, and that's all fun. You know, I like watching that, to be honest. You know, it's comical at times, and even, but the passion that I really have is being able to apply modifications to games. You know, Farm Simulator is so versatile, and being able to modify maps and vehicles and tractors and stuff like that, and that's what I've been primarily showcasing, I guess, in now these 2 streams. So yeah, it is kind of nice. I mean, it's just a break from the norm. And like I was telling Riptide, it's not necessarily that I despise or don't care for, I guess, the streaming the games or whatever. It's just not 100% what I'm into. So see, the fact that it keeps going to a black screen on this, I just don't get it. Riptide's back, yeah, and that's what we were talking about. I was just telling Aquafina there, I guess, as far as what I was doing there. So I got it finally somewhat sorted out there. What I ran into another issue there, as you've probably just seen there. When I initially load Farm Sim up, I guess, in obviously through Steam there was a fix, I guess you could say, for that, as far as to get OBS, I guess, to recognize it and not show the black screen like that and not have to mouse out and so on. But the fact that I'm experiencing that again, it's a little bit odd. That's something that's just now presented itself, because I had that initially before it crashed. Steam was updating and all that jazz. So why that's happening, I'm not 100% sure. So that's something I'll have to focus on post fact. But it's nice to have someone in the community to stream something. Yeah, you know, and that's kind of my hope, I guess, that, you know, there is some interest in that type of thing. You know, just to show what goes into a lot of games that most of us enjoy. You know, I primarily, you know, edit big time, I guess, as far as I think my biggest passions are Farm Sim 17, any of the giants, even 15 I've done modifications for, as well as a really old racing simulation game by the name of NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Yes, I said 2003 season. Yes, 2003. I didn't say that wrong. So yeah, the fact that there's still a huge following, I guess, for that type of sim. So the modifications that I've applied, they're primarily in tracks. I won't go into that as far as the streams go, but I had meant to only go to about 8 o'clock, I guess, as far as streaming, so I don't want to go on too much of a tangent. I'll just give you a little bit of a summary as far as like what I involve myself in, if that helps. But yeah, so what I wanted to go into now is, be it that we've got our object in there, so to show the process of removing an object, a building, what have you, anything that might be going on with your map, I was going to show that process. Off the scene, how we doing? Thanks for joining, and welcome to the stream. How are the mods going? Which mods? I mean the modifications. I mean, if that's a short for that. The modifications themselves are actually going pretty good. It's the stream took a dump. I guess earlier that was kind of embarrassing, but my own fault as far as I didn't have my my Steam. I wasn't signed into it, so it had obviously some updates that were in queue, and it started wanting to update games, and it just killed my stream. So I had to cut it off and bring it back on. So we're finishing up where I left off as far as at least what we tried to do. Okay, yeah. So the modifications, I guess, they went pretty well. So what I initially showed off was how to maneuver and manipulate, I guess, in the Giants editor that's available for Farm Sim. So was giving some examples of what happens when you don't focus on something by pushing the F key, say for example. You get this even though you got something selected. So you push your F key so that it focuses on it, and you can kind of move it around. So that was something that someone had asked me about, because they weren't 100%, they didn't understand that. So that was something else that I showed. But to get them, I showed how to put a new model into your map that wasn't there, even to move it around and get it where you want it. So now what I'm going to do is going through the process of as far as removing it. Now, keeping in mind I'm using an object that I already added, so I know what's gone into it, I guess, to get it in there, I guess you could say. But you will necessarily run into objects that, as far as it'll be, buried. It's like it might be like several layers down in your scene graph here. Mine's relatively pretty simple as far as for the sake of demonstration, but you might necessarily find, as far as open up a map, and it'll be just buried, just like it might be layers on top of layers on top of within your scene graph, and you have to keep that in mind as far as to keep that in mind as far as to CAD programs. Yeah, I mean, it does have somewhat the same idea. It's kind of as user friendly as you can get it, as far as anybody that's not familiar with using such programs like I do, like 3D SimEd, or 3D Max I should say, by Discrete, or Autodesk for that matter. Blender, I guess, is probably another fair example. I don't use Blender. I initially had tried working with Blender. The fact that it's free, I think it kind of speaks for itself as far as its versatility. I've seen a lot of people be very active, I guess, in creating Blender objects. To me, you can really see the difference between creations that have been made, even created, I guess, in Blender as in comparison, I guess, to 3D Max. The quality of the overall object does show. That's not to necessarily downgrade it or condescend it, but you can. I think there's a lot more structure with the the 3D Max. That's more what I'm pretty privy to be honest. But the fact that Giants does supply all the different plugins for those different type of applications like Blender and 3D Max and even Maya, which is another one. I don't use the Maya either. I've never used it. I haven't had any reason to. But the fact that those are available, I guess, and it's so versatile with the Giants engine as far as to be able to apply that. So I tried using Blender for some, some of those things, and that's another reason why I like to showcase, I guess, what I know as far as my workflow and my expertise in doing a lot of the simulation modifications like this. Some people have found it very appealing, I guess, the way I try to explain it, because I don't like to talk to people like they don't know anything. I kind of go into it knowing that they might know a few things, and if they ask me questions, especially by doing the live streams, then feel free to do so. I mean, that's the whole purpose of doing these types of streams, is to get people to feel more comfortable with being able to ask, well, how did you do that? I'm not going to be like, well, you dumbass, this is the way you do it. Why don't you know that? And I'm not going to do that. That's not the approach I like to take to it. Whereas I've come to find that that's necessarily the approach we'll do. It's like they got to hold your hand. So like I said, I primarily like to take the approach that you know something about it, but not necessarily as much as you'd like to be able to get to your finished end product. So going back to what I initially said, I like to engage with the chat as much as possible. I appreciate everybody showing up and showing me the support, and I just wish I could do it a lot more often. With this holiday weekend coming up, there's obviously freed up some of my time, so I wanted to get as much in as I could prior to all the Sunday ventures, as far as for the Easter Bunny coming and visit everybody and put goodies in their basket and whatever. I didn't want to step on anybody's, as well as my own in real life, family deals. Everybody's got something going on, I'm sure. So I just wanted to get something out there so without rambling on too much more, I'll just pinpoint on the idea. Let's say, and don't mind, I guess, the mess, I guess, that exists in here. This is a map that I've played around with. This is kind of my playground as far as just to have fun with. I test a lot of different mods that I've created and other modders have created out in this world, in this arena, if you will. It has the just to briefly summarize, I guess, as far as what's going on with it. It has all the implementations for the animals and what have you. And 10-4, I'll have to see. We appreciate you stopping by. Take care of the kiddos. You might be here for a little bit. I had intended only to go to about 8 o'clock, but if there happens to be, an increased interest for it like that, I will continue. I'd like to do it for as long as possible. Be it the fact, like I said, with the holiday weekend in check there. Trying to keep the Sunday free, so I don't have to do. I probably still will do a stream on Saturday, which is primarily my days that I've got scheduled, I guess, to do the streams right around the 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time frame. So yeah, going back to the main topic here. So let's say this was a map that you like to play and you had something you wanted to remove from it, and let's just assume that it's this mobile gas station that we've added previously to get to this point. And be it, like I said, be it the fact that we already know the process as far as what was used to get it applied. So how do we remove it? Okay. What is first and foremost, obviously the most obvious, is to select the object and make sure it's 100% selected. And the way you make sure it's 100% selected is go into the, sometimes you might have straggling pieces to models depending on the construct of it and what have you, but be it the fact that this is all confined, we have everything, the main root, I guess, of this model, it is 100% selected. This is how I can tell by looking in the scene graph. What you would initially do is just do a delete, that eliminates it that way. Okay, and then you would do a save of your map, which I will do. So we're already pointed into that map, so we just select the map, whatever your map is named. Mine just happens to be map 01. That's kind of more standard in default. So we're going to save that, and what it'll do, and just give it a second or two. And it should show in the bottom, hopefully. Okay, so I did not, yeah, so yeah, it did show on the bottom here that it saved successfully, so I can close that. And if we were to go back into the game, we'd be able to observe that that's gone. But before we do that, be it the fact that we have removed that item and we don't intend to reinstall it in a further date, and be it at this point, I do have the original map i3D for that backed up. Okay, but let's assume that this is an item that we don't have the i3D for. Okay, so what you want to make sure that you do once you delete all that stuff, and again keeping in mind that we already knew what was involved, I guess, as far as to get it installed, we already know where the files are located. But if you didn't know where the files are located, what you could have done, I should have shown that, I guess, prior to saving it. But what you can do is you can open it up in the map i3D. Let me back up here a minute. The map i3D you can open up in Notepad++. I do highly recommend, I guess, getting that utility, I guess, as far as editing i3D files. And what you could essentially do, and be it the fact that I've already saved it with that out of there, you could do a search for that mobile station. So I could just type in mobile and do a search for it. Granted, it's not going to be in here because I already removed it. But that's how you'd be able to find where those textures exist for that particular model prior to deleting it. So I should have probably shown that. I got ahead of myself there a little bit. But that's how you would find that. And then just go ahead and X out that. You don't need to save that because I've already saved it. But so now that we know, either by knowing where the textures were initially, as we already did, or looking in the map i3D through Notepad++, we can locate where all those files exist for the textures for that model. We know where those at this point, so we want to go to our textures, which is here, and this is where those textures are located. So we want to make sure that we remove those as well, because we're no longer using those. Those are files that are no longer attached to that map i3D. So we want to remove those. So in this case, since I've already have those saved, I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. So that is 100% the workflow that you should apply as far as adding and or subtracting models, be it buildings, trees, whatever the case may be, to your map. So hopefully that does give some insight and some direction, I guess, as far as that goes. With all that said, I don't know if there's anything else that would necessarily be like to go over. I'll wait a minute or so, I guess, to see if is any interest of anything else to be gone over, and I can do that. I know I had lost a couple of people that were 100% interested in it, and they had to go. Be it the fact that had the hiccup there, I guess, with the stream going down. Yeah, that kind of stunk, but we'll deal with it the best we can. So if there is no other interest, I guess, in that's really all about I had to show, as far as that was going to be my entire stream, as far as from start to finish up until it crashed. Be it that Steam came up there and decided it wanted to update some games. So please let me know if there's is any more questions, and if there isn't, I'll keep an eye on chat while I'm kind of doing my business here. I didn't necessarily have anything more to go over as far as that goes. I mean, I could probably go loosely. The objects that I cleaned up here that I like for instance my mobile station that I applied here. I'd already cleaned this up here. You can do much the same thing as far as getting it. See, this is my backed up copy. So the way this is designed here, as I already described earlier, the way this is designed here, would have to put this in the root of the map. This is where this particular, these are all the textures for that model, would have to go, is in the root of the map, which would be right in here. It would have to go in here. So I've seen this done more times than I care to count, to be honest, as far as how you just don't necessarily want to do it that way. What you want to have is like a specific folder, because obviously being in a blank map, you should necessarily forecast as far as having additional items being applied to your map. So you want to have a folder that's designated, I guess, for putting those types of objects in your map. So be it the fact that you put it in this textures, or if there's already a folder in here, say for example, you could do that, and then point your particular model that you put in here, which would go into the root, your i3D for that matter, and test it. Try opening it in the Giants editor to make sure that it loads, and if it loads, then it's good to go as far as to import it into your map. So just another summarization, I guess, as far as that goes. But if there is no other questions there, I want to really figure out what is going on with me being able to load, and I don't know if it's a resolution issue or what. So if you bear with me a moment or two, I want to see if I can troubleshoot what is going on with Farm Simulator not wanting to show up in OBS other than as a black screen. So that is really starting to bug me. So if anything, I'm going to turn this into a troubleshoot, I guess, for getting Farm Simulator 17, I guess, loading in OBS correctly. Because the only thing that I was 100% aware of, as far as other people that had that issue, was to turn a setting off, which was the multi-sample anti-aliasing or something like that. You had to completely shut that off, turn it off in the game itself. But from what I witnessed here, and this is the second time now, so I'm going to see if I can go back into. So this might turn into a little bit of a troubleshoot for the tail end, I guess, of the stream, to understand what is going on with Farm Sim in OBS. So let me check this. I'm doing this off screen so that guys don't have to see this. Yep, so it should not be. Yeah, so that should be my primary monitor, which is that. So interesting. I don't know. Multi-adapter capability. I don't know if I need to have that on. Let me try that. That's just really weird. Okay, I'm going to see if I can go back into Farm Sim 17 now and see what that does. Alright, let's go try this. We're going to learn some things here before we go. See, it still wants to go to a black screen. That's just weird. Just don't understand that. Why is it doing that? See, this is the issue that I was having prior to setting that option. As far as going into the advanced graphics and turning this multi-sampling, obviously you can't see that in the stream, but there's this multi-sampling option in here and you have to shut that off. At least that's the way it used to be. go ahead and resave this. I mean, I've used the dual monitor deal before too, so that should not be the issue either. I mean, the fact that I can actually see it on my main monitor, but it's not coming across OBS, that's what's kind of weird. It's really weird. Shouldn't have to mouse out, that's what's weird. We troubleshooting here, folks. Alright, so right now I moused out of it. Obviously it shows my main monitor. It's observing OBS. But I still have Farming Simulator on my main monitor. That's what's... So the fact that it doesn't want to show up on there, that's what I don't get. Okay. Yeah, that is really weird. And as far as what's showing up on OBS is in comparison to my main monitor, that's what's really really wild. Alright, let's see if we do... Let's get into the task manager here and see what that does. Okay. See, I shouldn't have to do that. That's the whole thing. Okay, now does it show up there? Let's see. See, now there it goes. See, now what it's forcing me to have to do, and again, you know, just an FYI, I guess, for most people that might necessarily be trying to stream Farm Simulator 17 through OBS, what that just made me do is I had to go into my task manager, right? I didn't have to basically touch anything in the task manager, but to go into that, Farm Simulator is still running on the taskbar, right? So all I had to do is go into the task manager, close it out, and then necessarily go into. So that's interesting. I have not had to do that before, but the fact that it's forcing me to have to do that, that's really strange. So let me go ahead and see if I can load this and make sure it doesn't crash and whatnot. So I might be getting too far ahead of myself, because initially what happened was the entire game crashed, but I think it was because it didn't save the map correctly. So let's see if this will indeed load. And it does look like it did. So yeah, I'm gonna have to do some more research possibly on that to find out the necessity, I guess, to have to go into the task manager and get that to load, because that shouldn't be what needs to be done. So we'll go ahead and get in our truck here. We'll go over to the area that we removed that item, the mobile gas station. I mean, it runs fine as far as I can tell. The stream there, I guess maybe you guys can tell me otherwise, but it seems to show fine on the stream once I do that, which is really weird. But so as you can see here, this is the area that we had the gas station, and we removed it properly. So hopefully, if nothing else, that will give most anybody that was a bit timid, I guess, to want to use the Giants editor, or even editing a map for that matter, you know, and you can kind of get an idea of my playground here, as far as like this area I primarily got set up here for taking pictures of mods. So like, say for example, I wanted to take a picture of this truck. I can get out of the truck, I can focus on it like so, and I can use, since I got here, let me bring that back up here. So if I push I can go into my screenshot mode. And this is a mod. This is called a game extension mod, if anybody wasn't aware. And what that does is it takes all the HUDs off, so that I can just take a picture of this. This is primarily why I set this area up here, to be able to, it's kind of like a green screen as you would on your camera. It just makes it easier to be able to spank out, I guess, all the areas that you don't want, and just isolate whatever it is you want to have in the picture. And I won't necessarily go through that, but you get the idea. You get the idea. So we'll just go back into and we'll turn the screenshot mode off. That puts all of our HUDs back as far as the map and the PDA and our F1 and our time and all that. And then over here I've got a makeshift loading station, I guess, for all the different crops. Doesn't have a silo, but a physical silo, but there is a silo, I guess, to store stuff. And then I got a watering trough over here that you can fill water trailers with and so on. And that's to test out the animals, which I have primarily over here. I've got pigs way over on this side. Pigs way over on this side. I got sheep next to it, and then the chickens, which automatically already populate. You get chickens automatically, as far as like you don't have to buy those. And then our cows, which you have to buy. This is our cow area. So this has all been set up all nice and neat. As far as this is where the cows graze. And it has its building here, I guess, for the manure. It's all been placed custom based, I guess, as far as this is where the manure and the slurry go. And you can see the back side of my studio, I guess you could say there. Got a little bit of foliage here that probably needs to come out, but yeah, you can see where it's been cut into. Sort of like this huge cliff. You got some parked vehicles here that haven't been removed yet. So I'll just give you a little tour, I guess, of this. This map is based on the vanilla Goldcrest. It's a default map that comes with FarmSim. You know, it's been basically just removed and stripped, I guess, of any objects and roads and all that stuff. So these here can be removed pretty easily in the editor as well. The fact that they're floating is kind of comical, because it doesn't have the object there that has the parking asphalt. It's kind of funny, but it's seeming like I'm not getting any other questions, I guess, about anything that might necessarily want to be gone over. And I'm well over the time that I had intended, I guess, to actually stream. Whether or not I will come back on tonight, might not so much, but Saturday, keeping in mind Saturday at the 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time frame, I will keep we'll just call it my regular schedule, I guess, up to we'll keep that we'll definitely keep that on the books. So if anything, I guess for now, if there is no other questions, as I said, I will leave it at that. And be sure, I guess, to hit that follow if you haven't, and catch the stream for 5 p.m. Tomorrow evening. I appreciate everybody that stopped by. Riptide, Aquafina, Off the Scene, Home Racing. I guess I think he had to run off there, but appreciate anybody and everybody that stopped by, and hope it was a pleasurable experience, regardless of the catastrophic crash, I guess, of the initial stream. I appreciate anybody coming back on, and thank you for watching.